Welcome to Learn On. My name is Caitlin and I am with EVERFI. I'm a schools manager here in Denver, Colorado.
And my name is Wyjuana Montgomery. I'm the Director of K-12 Implementation for EVERFI based in Oklahoma City. So let's just set the stage here. When you think of Black History Month, what comes to mind? Typically, images of Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, slavery, civil rights movement. While all of those events are very important, the problem is they don't tell the full story. And it puts an overwhelming focus on an image of Black oppression, which really dims the light on Black excellence, which we know is a part of Black history as well. So let's just think about it. Let's be real. Black history is American history. And it's not just for February, and it's not just for Black people. The reason why February was initially chosen by Carter G. Woodson, it was a bit of a PR campaign, right? We wanted to shine a light on the fact that Black people had done a lot to contribute to American society as a whole. And February was particularly important because it included the birthdays of Frederick Douglass, very well-known former slave and abolitionist, and President Abraham Lincoln, who of course signed the Emancipation Proclamation, which set forth the wheels in motion to end slavery. But now we are at a stage where it is very important to increase the depth of the stories that we tell. In order to heal and move forward, it's necessary to raise the level of what we are learning and seeing and exposed to as far as Black history and the Black experience in America. And what's so wonderful about it all? These conversations can begin in schools, in homes. If you come to it with an open mind, an open heart, and the right resources, you are definitely in position to have healthy, more in-depth conversation around Black history, culture, and the Black experience in America.
So what does that really mean in action, right? So we have a new course. It's called 306 Continuing the Story. It was released in January, and it is basically an extension and an expansion on our legacy course 306. And so the important part about 306 Continuing the Story is that we're helping our students draw connections from what happened in the past to what's happening today. We're starting to celebrate the accomplishments of Black people. We're not just simply focusing on the side and aspect of oppression. And so the way that we're able to do that is that we look at counter storytelling, or what we consider, the opportunity to tell the stories of people who are often ignored in history. And so the point of this is to really excite and inspire students to think about, what else am I not learning about, right? What other stories have I not heard? And when we look at this, when we're talking to educators, what we want them to see is the connection between Black history and all of our different verticals, all of the different things that we have to offer as a company at EVERFI. Because once again, right, it shows that Black history is American history. We look at things like financial literacy, which is a major tenet in EVERFI, and we look at Black business titans. And so we talk about people like Madam C.J. Walker, who was the first female self-made millionaire. But we also talk about things like the Tulsa Race Massacre. And we make these connections between destruction of community, destruction of family, and the impact that that has on generational wealth. If you destroy a community, you rip it out root and stem, you are not able to see years and years of impact later on, and that impacts how Black families are able to build their own wealth. Outside of financial literacy, we look at STEM, right? So we have quite a few different courses within STEM. And so relating this back to Black history, we have Black contributions in medicine, which celebrates trailblazers like Rebecca Crumpler, who was the first Black woman to earn a medical degree. And she took her medical degree, brought it back to Richmond, Virginia, and provided medical care for formerly enslaved people who otherwise had no access to care. So we celebrate these contributions, but we also talk about the exploitation of Black bodies in medicine. So there are stories like people who oftentimes are very highly regarded, like Dr. J. Marion Sims, who is the modern father of gynecology. And Dr. J. Marion Sims decided to operate on enslaved women without anesthesia because he believed that Black women could not feel pain or had thicker skin and therefore, did not need anesthesia. These biases and this misinformation still shows up in our medical system today. And so making those connections is incredibly important so that we know why oftentimes Black communities have a harder time with quality healthcare and having better health outcomes. And then finally, with social emotional learning, the idea of counter storytelling. When students can understand that there are stories that they have not heard before that impact how people show up, to the classroom, to the workplace, it inspires them to create a more inclusive classroom, right? When we can really expand our perspective and understand that there are things that we don't know, we are more compassionate and we're more inclusive. And so ultimately, we hope that 306 Continuing the Story is not just implemented in February. We want to see it every single month because Black history is American history and should be taught year-round. We wanted to have a discussion about Black culture and the things that are really important to us. So why I'll ask you the first question. Are there any misconceptions about Black culture that you would like to correct?
There are definitely some misconceptions that I'd love to clear up. I want to make it clear that we are not just our hair, hip hop music, and sports. While those are areas and spaces that we seem to, occupy a large foothold in when you're looking at the media, there is much more than that. We've always been entrepreneurs. We've always been community builders. We've always had agency in our communities because guess what? If we weren't going to do it for ourselves, no one was going to do it for us. At one point we could only rely on, that's what allowed Greenwood in Tulsa to develop. We could only rely on and even have access to and utilize legally businesses that we built for ourselves. So we are a rich culture that spans much more than fashion, athletic talent and music. So I just want to make that clear. We have always been a full community, a full people, rich with experiences in a variety of areas. What values are the most important that you've learned from your heritage?
Yeah, so growing up, I would say the two biggest ones were joy. I think just always finding joy in whatever you are doing is just so incredibly important. And then playing into that is, of course, resiliency, right? Like if you can find happiness, you can be resilient. And then the value that I am really starting to take to heart and bring into this next stage of life is rest, and the importance of rest as liberation, as resistance. We have to take care of our bodies. And so I have really been learning from, people like the NAP ministry who really say, you have to take care of yourself. We are not these machines that are meant to run every single day. And resting is almost like an ancestral privilege, right? We have worked so hard as a people. It is time to take our rest so that we can keep on the fight. What makes you proud to be part of the Black community?
What makes me the most proud is our level of resiliency. We won't be snuffed out. We won't be, we can't make us go away. We're not going anywhere. We always hear, life gave me lemon, so I made lemonade. I'd like to say that in the Black community, we did better than lemonade. We made a lemon meringue pie when life gave us lemons. We turned it into something that's smooth, something that's crisp, something that tastes good and that you want to partake of. So I love the level of resilience that I feel is pretty much baked into our DNA because of everything that we've overcome, and not just overcome, but the things we accomplished on the shores of Africa and all around the world. Even before we were brought to the United States, our history didn't start here, right? We were well established in doing things and writing and reading and all of that thousands of years ago. What makes you the most proud, Caitlin, to be part of the Black community?
I mean, I gotta say, probably Black women, right? Every single stage of my life, there has been a Black woman who has kind of opened a door for me or held that space for me when I needed it. And just the sense of sisterhood, but also to see what Black women are doing to change communities, change the country. People like Stacey Abrams, people like Kamala Harris, right, are really shattering these ceilings, shattering these ideas that we've held. And so, every day I just kind of wake up and see Black women are just killing it. And it reminds me to always, level up and keep going. And it's really beautiful to see.
Get access to the cost-free 306 African American History and 306 Continuing the Story resources at everfi.com/new teacher.